Hi everyone, welcome back to Brookdale Farm. Well, today's project was going to be to start cutting all the rust out and making up the panels to go into the bottom of the cedar box here. But one of my viewers, thanks Chris, has sent me an ad for a nice looking complete cedar box. So instead of doing that today, we're going to go and look at this other cedar box and have a look, and I'm going to show you what you need to look for when you're buying old machinery. So this is the machine in here, and it's tucked in under this rather low roof, and I can't get the lids open at the moment, but it looks pretty good from the outside. The farmer's not, or the owner's not here at the moment, but he's told me that I can drag it out of here to have a look at it. So I'm just going to go and find a tractor and hitch it up. We'll pull it out and we'll have a good close inspection of it. So whenever we are assessing a piece of machinery that we might be interested in buying, we just want to go through and check all of the parts on it that wear, all of the parts on it that rust, and all of the parts on it that might crack. It's the same for pretty much any machine you're buying, whether it be a tractor or a seeder or a harvester. Obviously things with engines in, you want to assess the engines, and you also want to look for leaks. So we're just going to go through this one now and have a look at the various bits on it that might wear and the work we might need to do if we decide that we are going to buy it, and try and just generally assess its condition while we're going at that. So this is an almost identical cedar to the one I've got that I was going to do all that work to, but this is a Mark III instead of a Mark II. So we're just going to go through this now and have a really good look at it and work out whether it's worth getting this one instead of repairing my other one. Now if we start up the front here, we've got this light bar hanging on here with two lights on it that bolt onto this post here. It's been dropped down so they could fit it in the shed, but these lights are going to shine right back on your cedar bar and mean you can see an awful lot. That's a great asset. We can tell that this machine, well, one of the things to look at, this machine's been quite well looked after, because here are the hydraulic fittings, and at the end of the last use they wrapped them in, cleaned them down, wrapped them in a bit of rag to stop the dirt getting in there. So there's a few things like this that we look for to just work out the condition of the machine. This one has a PTO driven fan. The PTO shaft still has the guards on it. It's a clamp on with a bolt, not a push button one. And I can't see if those universal joints are greasable, but that universal joint feels good. So there's no wear in there. That one feels good. We're just going to go back through and just check all of the universal joints. The universal joints all feel good. One of the other things this one has got that always bothered me on mine, somebody had taken the guard off the fan, and I'd always intended to make a new one because I have ended up with things sucked into there that shouldn't be going through the fan. Nice safety feature that should be on these. The grease nipples are clean on here. That means whoever last greased it wiped them clean when they'd finished to stop any dirt getting pushed in. It's another sign that it's been reasonably well maintained. The belts on here all look pretty good. The bearings feel pretty good. Everything still turns nicely. At that speed there's no extra noises that shouldn't be there. The other thing that we need to look at, this is the plug for the electricals. Those wires are all quite hard now. They'll probably still work. The plug still looks clean enough. And we've got an extra plug here that I presume is to go for these two lights here. It's the same cable coming down over there. Next thing we want to check out, when they cleaned out these boxes, they didn't open the door in the bottom to let any dirt out of there. It does have much heavier duty hinges than are on mine. The other thing I really like about this one, I don't know whether this is original, but there's four holes in the two boxes that allow you to actually clean the seed and fertilizer out of the box. Mine, you had to get in there with bags and an ice cream container, and it made it really, really hard work to get the remains of your seed and fertilizer out. Looking at it from here, there's very little rust along the bottom or around any of these pieces here. Then going to move around to the tyres. Mine needs new tyres on, and they just weren't in the budget for this year. They're out of my price range for this year. This one's got good tyres on it still. I didn't bring a jack with me today, but normally you want to jack them up and just make sure the wheels turn all right. If you also just rock the machine like that, if these bearings are shot, you can often hear them clunking. We come round a little bit further. These chains are all dry, but they all still, that one's a bit stiff actually. They need a bit of oil put on them, but they're not in bad condition. They've got a little bit of sideways movement in there, so probably I'll be looking at changing them next year maybe. Still has the spare change wheels to change your gear settings on here, so that's a really good thing. We're missing this safety cover here. That's not a big problem. They often get chucked off because then you can oil your chains and do that maintenance a lot more easily. The other good thing about this one, it's still got the seed chart on it, so that just makes setting it up a bit easier. Now I haven't yet found the handle to turn this. We'll see if we can find a tool in a little while somewhere to just crank this over a bit, make sure everything's going to turn in the boxes. Next thing we want to look at, this looks like it's been sandblasted around here. That's a sign that either one of these little cups in here was leaking or this hose has come off at some point, and they were blowing out seed and fertilizer. It bounces off here, bounces back against there, and does the same thing as sandblasting. That's not a problem. We're just going to pop these clips and have a look and see what falls out from underneath. We're going to climb in here and see what we can see. This one has had an awful lot of work done to it and hasn't done many acres since. These are all brand new. They've hardly been used. And all of these bits have been replaced already. So I know that there's over $800 worth of parts I needed on mine under here, all of these bits. So this is very nice and clean under here. It's still got good seals on the box here. And there's no rust at all, no corrosion in these shafts up here. This is at the moment looking like a really nice clean unit. these ones have been blanked off. They've been blanked off in the top as well. They obviously weren't using all of the rollers for the last cedar bar that this was used on. That's not a problem because I need to blank off some of them on mine as well. Okay, so the hinges on this side have seized up and I can't get it open any more than that. There's a little bit of seed from last time they were using it in here that didn't get cleaned out, but it still doesn't look like there's much rust on here. Once again, this whole side looks like it's been sandblasted. Probably all of these were worn out, and they've replaced all of these, and it's probably only done 1 or 2 seasons since they replaced them. Come around this side. This tyre looks all right. These wheel bearings feel all right. And everything looks all right on this side. The other place to check on these is these tubes here rust out, but these ones feel really nice and clean. It won't take much to sort these hinges out and make this operate freely again. Okay, so we're up on top. It does actually look like this one has been repainted at some stage already. So the next thing to do is to look in the boxes. If you leave these lids clamped down, it squashes all the seals here and wears the seals out much more quickly. So when you're not using it, you always want to leave the pressure off the seals. Now if we come down into our boxes here, these rollers here look almost brand new as well. They've done enough work to take the shine off them, but that's about it. This has a very, very different grain level sensing device to mine. I really like that one actually. That one's going to be much easier to fix when it goes wrong. It's got a little micro switch on it. When it's got weight against it there, it's going to close the circuit, and when the weight comes off it, the light on the monitor will come on. That's a really good way to do that. My one had a magic eye with a light beam and didn't work very well. The boxes in here have also been re-elasticed at some stage on the joints. This just helps protect the joints. We've got a little bit of rust up here though. We'll have a look at that on the outside. It has had a little bit of rust and moisture in it at some stage, and there's still a very small amount of fertiliser in there that they didn't quite clean out last time they cleaned it. But generally, this is a really nice clean machine. Okay, we're on the outside of the box now, and this is where the moisture was getting in. We can see it's bubbling a little bit of rust there, so we're just going to need to fairly quickly clean the rust up along here, put a coat of paint on it and seal it up with a layer of Celastic. The trouble happens when you've got a weld mark here and a weld up here. Between the welds, the water sits in there and it gradually penetrates, and then you get a rust build up on that seam there, and that can very rapidly cause you problems. So on the inside you'll see they've all been Celasticed. We'll Celastic these ones as well. That just stops the moisture getting in there. We'll have a look in the back box now. Open the lid up. It's got the same sensing system, and that sounds like the micro switch is working. It's got new rollers in it. You can get these little blanking bits. This is for one of the pipes underneath that's not in use. So you can get these little blanking covers to go on them. There's a little bit of rust in the corner here. and I wouldn't mind betting that's leaking air out. So we'll just need to clean that up, put a coat of paint on that as well, just to seal that and stop that from getting any worse. But generally, these are really nice, clean, tidy boxes on the inside here. The other thing that this one comes with, which I'd always intended to make for mine, are these hose plates here. So all your hoses from underneath come out to these plates. There's one on either side here. There's the other one hooked up under there. And these are genuine, they're in the manual, and I'd always intended to make one. The other half of it is down here. So this goes onto your cedar bar, and it's actually got blanking plates on it as well to stop dirt and water getting in the off season. And it just makes it so much easier to unhitch your machine. There's 4 bolts that you undo, and your hoses come off altogether, rather than having to battle with undoing the hose clamps and trying to wriggle them apart, because they can be a real pain. Okay, I've found a spanner so that we can just crank everything over and make sure it's all turning. So we want to turn this handle here and make sure that these turn on this side. It's a bit stiff, but these chains are a bit stiff too, so a little bit of oil on the chains and greasing all the bearings should mean that it's all going to run freely. Now, to change the gear ratios on these, you turn this out the way, you pull this out, and then you slide these in and out. They've got little marks on them. They're very hard to see, and that changes your seating rate. I noticed this one has got a bit of wire wound around in here, which probably means that it slips, and just needed that taken up a bit. So we probably from that can guess that the gearbox is a little bit worn. That's okay, we've got 2 spare gearboxes sitting at home, but I believe you can still buy all the parts for these as well. But we've put it in different gear now. We'll just make sure it still turns, and it does, so that's good. We'll do the same with the back one. Okay, we've changed the setting on the back one. Everything still turns on that, so we know that the gearbox isn't disastrous. Well, this cedar actually looks very good, and for what they're asking for it, it's actually less than the cost of just the parts to redo my cedar. So we're probably going to look at buying this one and using the other one as spare parts for it as we need them. I hope you found this little video useful. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye!